Welcome to this episode of the Getting Intimate podcast. And my guest today is a regular. It's Dr. Dain Heer. He's one of the most awe-inspiring people I know. He's the co-creator of Access Consciousness and a tenacious explorer of energy and possibilities. And in addition to that, he is also someone who truly invites intimacy. He actually demands intimacy in most of his interactions. So today I've asked him to come on and have a conversation about intimacy, perfection, and chaos. It's all day.
Thank you. And wow, what a great intro. I never thought of myself as demanding intimacy, but after the words came out of your mouth, I see that is true.
Well, it's this part of you where you're not satisfied with just blah, blah, blah. There is a demand in your world that, hey, if we're going to chat, let's be here.
Yeah. If we're going to chat, if we're going to work together, if we're going to interact with each other, let's have that be as deep and wide and with as much possibility as we can both be. Let's not stay on the surface and do platitudes at each other.
Yep, exactly that. And that actually leads me to my first question. What is it that makes it seem so important to people to not go there, but to actually hold on to perfectionisms in the interaction, especially in relationships and dating world?
Well, unfortunately, so one of the elements of intimacy is vulnerability. And vulnerability is where you're there with no walls, no barriers, nothing to prove. And it's basically like, hi, here I am, warts and all. I don't have to try to prove that I am anything I'm not. We all have greatness. We all have stupidity. And here I am, here I am today as I am today, not trying to prove anything else. And I think the difficulty is we grow up in a world where from day one, we're taught to judge us and everything else as though that's valid. So the primary currency that people have with one another and themselves is judgment. And I think that's the biggest eliminator of intimacy and the element of vulnerability, which is essential to intimacy.
Well, it seems like perfection requires so much order because it requires you to continuously look at, am I being perfect? Like, am I not being perfect? Am I perfect enough? Am I perfect according to whatever standard I decided this particular interaction should have? So what is, like, if you would describe a chaotic way of interacting with somebody, what would that be?
Hi.
Right.
There you go.
Yeah.
See, we here's the other difficulty is, so perfection, as you mentioned, it's ordered. And and so when you talk about chaos, you got to address the elephant in the room that everyone is avoiding chaos because they've been taught that chaos is havoc. Havoc is destructive. Chaos is infinitely creative. With one request, you change your life. Chaos is where you've ever thought, wow, I'd really like to have that, and it shows up without you controlling it, that's chaos. But that's us. That's us being us. And what we're really avoiding is the gift of being. And we're also, there are so many layers and levels to this. It's so far beyond one podcast conversation, of course, but fundamentally, we seem to have this idea that there's something so wrong with us or so bad, terrible about us that we need to keep that from infecting other people. And the idea of image and order is a great way to get somebody to do that in a socially acceptable way. But what's really going on, if you peel back several layers of the curtains, what's really going on behind that is people are trying to hide their very essence, their very being. And so in order to do that, people need to judge everything that comes from them and everything that comes into them to try to structure it to make sure that it matches something that's appropriate, never anything that's not appropriate. And here we are. So when you say, what would the chaotic way of interacting be? Chaos is creative. Chaos is not destructive. Havoc is destructive. And we've all bought that chaos and havoc are the same thing. They're not. Chaos is creative. Chaos is orgasm. Chaos is joy. Chaos is ice cream when you don't expect it. Chaos is, losing 20 pounds just by saying, hey, body, will you change? Chaos is when you have an interaction with somebody that leaves you in tears because it's so beautiful and neither one of you could have predicted it. And these are all the things that we're missing by structuring ourselves, by not having vulnerability with ourselves and others and not having true intimacy.
That was beautiful. And it reminds me of, so in infatuation, there seems like that initial infatuation, there seems to be more chaos. It's like and I'm not sure, but there seems to be more chaos because there's like less to live up to. It's new. It's, you're kind of like in awe of this other person that's there. Could you speak to that? Like, is that more chaotic? And if so, when do we start ordering?
Well, it's far more chaotic. And the thing is, we start ordering it about 10 seconds after that. Because now we have placed this person in a place of value in our world and we've made them a significance. And so anything you make significant, now you have to be and do certain things and not be and do certain things based on what you've decided this person is for you or here's the other part. You'll see somebody, you have an interaction like that, and then you start planning your future together. 5 minutes after meeting them, you're naming your babies and planning the colors of your wedding and wondering how many bedrooms they want in their house. And are they going to be okay if you paint it beige? All of that is projection and expectation of future. The difficulty that creates is when we project and expect that. So it comes from projection and expectation. When we do projection and expectation, then we have to do judgment to try to match and also to try to pigeonhole them into this projected future. And they're doing the same thing with us because it's very rare that you find somebody you just click with. And when you do, you don't want to lose them. So you're like, okay, I will structure my future so I have them in it. And this occurs within moments of meeting people. So the first few seconds, and let's say the first few seconds are total chaos because it's total possibility, open-ended. Oh my God, beautiful being meets beautiful being. And then bye-bye intimacy, because now we're doing projection and expectation, which kills the intimacy.
And I just realized that we can even be so brilliant that we start this even before we meet by the very idea that we're going to go on a date that we think is like promising or this person seemed to be. And then that whole projections, expectations already starts turning.
Yeah.
So we already have part of that perfection order to live up to when we meet them.
Totally.
Wow.
And it's I'm glad we can even have a conversation like this that somebody might listen to because most people can't even fathom that this occurs. And, and one of the gifts of facilitating people, I'll be in a class and somebody will ask a question and I'll say, okay, when did you know not to do this? When did you know that this person would be just like this? And they went, oh, the first time I saw their picture. I'm like, wow, okay. So what did you start planning as soon as you saw their picture? And it's like people do this exactly like you said. They'll see their picture, they'll hear their name, and they're already now going on to trying to create a future with somebody they've never even met. They don't even know anything about them. They don't know whether they like puppies or hate them. They don't know if they stink. They don't know if they have any personality or sense of humor. They don't care. They're just like, oh, my precious, which is just amazing.
So it's like one perfect image meeting another perfect image, and then seeing if they fit together like a puzzle.
Like that. And then here's the other part is you're doing that with them. They're doing it with you. Energetically, you can perceive what they require of you. Since your whole life, you've been trying to deliver what people require, because in that they might receive and they might see you as a gift, and they might like you and not judge you and not hate you and not abuse you and not separate from you and not abandon you. So now your whole job is to be as perfect as you think they think you are. Oh
And
my
then,
God.
and then they do the same, which means
Exactly.
that none of us are actually present.
Exactly.
Mm.
Boom.
Boom. And that also, because there is this, a lot of people talk about like they feel lonely, and they feel lonely even in relationships. Like they nearly feel lonelier in a relationship sometimes than they did before they entered into this particular relationship. So is that also connected to this non-chaotic perfection order?
Well, let's look at it this way. If you feel lonely, getting into a relationship is not the way to change that ever. Okay? Ever. Now, what? Dr. Dain, you're speaking some crazy language there, Mr. Man. What you talk about? That's the whole idea of a relationship. Why do you think I'm in one? So I'm not lonely. Well, if you're lonely, it's because you're not present with you and as you. You're lonely because you have so many judgments of you that you think if you get somebody to shoulder the burden of judgment of you with you, then you will have a sense of fulfillment. But the only thing that really works, the only people I've met who have truly great relationships are totally okay not being in a relationship. Those are the only people who have truly great relationships. Everybody else has to cut off their arms and legs to go on the ride of somebody else's life. You know, it's like somebody shows up in their little Mini Cooper, you know, they're only this one's smaller than usual. And you're at your house, you know, and they're like, oh my God, okay. Yeah, we've been on a few dates, and they show up to take you out on another date. And they're like, come on the ride of my life. And you see them through the curtains. You're like, oh my God, I'm so excited. I'm going to go on the ride of their life. Yay. I won't even have to create my life anymore at all. I can just go on the ride of theirs. And you go to climb in and you're like, oh my God, my legs don't fit. The car's too small. So you cut off your legs and throw them out the window. And now you go to shut the door and you realize, oh shit, I can't close the door because my shoulders and arms are getting in the way. So you cut off your left arm, you chew off your right arm and throw those out the window, and you close the door with your chin, and now you're ready to go on the ride of their life. And that's what people think is relationship. And the difficulty with all of this is the only space we're ever going to have intimacy with another is when we have it with ourselves. Yeah. And this is something people don't seek. They never look at what can I be with me that makes me totally okay being with me, with or without anybody else. And that's the only space of true success. And that's not to say that you can't have some great interactions, et cetera, but there will always be something missing in the relationship if you don't have you. And intimacy with us is the space in which we have us, meaning I like you, I adore you, I love you, I have been with you. I'm not talking about you. This is a theoretical, just for those of you wondering. I like you, I adore you, I love you, we've been together. And if you left, I would miss you, but I know I would be okay.
Well, it's also because, you know, in the beginning, when I was saying that you invite, but also demand intimacy, I think that one of the things that makes that provocative for some people is that you're not saying, hey, come and be intimate with me. You're really saying, hey, get intimate with you so that we can actually have a conversation that's, you know, leads somewhere, goes somewhere, gets deeper into.
Well, so, it's not just a conversation, it's an interaction of beings.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in talking to your pre-programmed image where you try to prove how valuable you are by saying the words that you think I'm going to judge as right, or by hiding everything you think I'm going to judge as wrong. I want to talk to you about all of it, what's up in the moment, and where can we go from here? And I want to also mention two things. One is when you say I demand intimacy, the idea of demand in this world is like, well, I'm not going to talk to you unless you're intimate.
Yeah.
No. It's not like that at all. It's just, if we're going to have an ongoing interaction and a depth of interaction of whatever form, then I'm going to be intimate. So if you are, then we can go there. If you're not, that's totally okay. I don't project and expect, if I were to do the demand from what we think is demand, that would be the exact opposite of what we're talking about. So I don't project and expect you need to be this, you need to do this if you're going to be around me. Just, and so I want to acknowledge that first. I be me. And if somebody can have intimacy, that's great. If they can't, that's great. But I also want to mention that part of what you're saying about this demand is because you and I have worked together for 15 years. And also everybody that we work with on our team that has 10 of us, 11 of us, that we work with really closely. That's where that demand comes into play because of the closeness and constant overtime interaction. And we've had many people that were part of that had no willingness to get more vulnerable and intimate with themselves. And they just find themselves moving away and doing something else, which I think is great. We should all have choice. It's not about taking away somebody's choice. It's about having them have an even deeper, greater level of choice.
Absolutely. And the word demand there is really, it's exactly what you described. It's not from the projection I won't talk to you if you're not, because that is the opposite, obviously. It is, I just want to, it's so interesting because the word really is like, it kind of like does this. And there isn't, I think that.
Can I see that one more time?
Well, what I'm looking at is if one person in an interaction is willing to be vulnerable in intimacy with themselves, like that actually is in itself kind of like contagious, or otherwise it usually gets a little uncomfortable for the other person if they're not willing to go there. So it's not necessarily like a demand on someone else. It's a demand you have of you in interaction.
Yeah, exactly that. And it's like you said, it can be one of two things usually. It's if you have an intimacy with yourself, and part of the reason most people will not choose it is because it's very seldom neutral. The intimacy with self, that demand, it's not even a demand, it's just being.
Yeah.
We say demand from the outside to try to differentiate from somebody who doesn't function that way, but it's just, hi. Once again, hi. But when you have that, there are certain people that are so invited to be more of intimacy with themselves. And then there's certain people that absolutely hate it and go away. They can't be in that interaction. And what those people will sometimes do is they'll go, oh my God, that person is such a jerk. They're so arrogant. They're so this. And what they're really saying is, wow, that person activated all the places I'm not willing to be intimate with myself.
Yeah. And there is this, God, I had something, I missed it. I know, it like came into my head and then it like left. Boo boo.
So far, let me just clarify. We have and boo.
So, actually, and that brought it back. It came.
You're welcome.
Because this is the chaos. So for me, when you're being you, when you are being, like when you're willing to just be, like you're saying, you are utterly chaotic. And there are all kinds of shiny things, change of energy that occurs. So could you talk a little bit of that, like the chaoticness of intimacy with self?
Yeah, well, once again, let's acknowledge that chaos always creates more possibilities. And when you're not doing judgment of any action or interaction or anything that comes from you to another, or that comes from another to you, you have this ability to be present with everything that is. When I started facilitating access consciousness classes, I used to, I would get a new piece of information because we're always getting new info and new things, which keeps it fresh and interesting, which is also chaos. But I would be like, okay, I'm going to talk about this today. And I would go and I would talk about it. And it was like, ugh. And I did that for years, sort of trying to make sure that I was delivering everything I could, and in that I was not chaotic. There was a lot of points of view that I had, and now I just show up and I'm like, hi, no matter what the class is, whether it's about money or whether it's about being a benevolent wizard or whether it's about accessing your magic or relationship or whatever, I just show up. I'm like, hi, what do you have? And in that, I can perceive in their worlds the greatest contribution I can be in that moment. And this is the thing that we miss when we don't show up with us just going, hi. And the other interesting part is I've seen people, I've been facilitating access for 25 years. So I've seen people go through many, many things as they, if they stick around, I get to see them in different places and spaces. And the people that start having an intimacy with themselves, it's really beautiful because you can tell it's like they've offloaded the Santa sack of judgment they've been carrying. And it's like they start to be able to just show up, and they start to be more successful in their families. They're easier time with their family, more successful in their job and whatever it is that they do and create. Because we're actually fully equipped to live our lives and create our lives without judgment, but we think we need judgment to create our lives. And as that lie disappears, there's this wonderfulness that people start to experience in getting to just be them in each moment and show up.
And it's, you were saying it's not just like I said, had a conversation, you said interact, and it really isn't about the words. So somebody said to me the other day that one of the greatest signs of friendship is when you can just sit and be quiet, like the length of the silence, can be there without being uncomfortable. And so that also, for me, one of the things that happens when we're willing to be intimate is that the words don't seem as important. They come when they come, and then sometimes they just don't need to be present either.
Yes.
And you show that a lot.
Well, it's wonderful because that's where our interaction, whether we're using words or not, our interaction is always energetic. You can be with somebody who's comfortable enough with themselves not to have to fill the silence with words. Because let's face it, when most people talk, basically what they're saying is blah, 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 blah. And sorry, people, it's just people being people-y. It's kind of like when you talk to a dog. What does your dog Fluffy hear? Blah, 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 Fluffy. Fluffy, blah, 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 Fluffy. And most of us crave something more substantial than that, more nurturing than that. And once again, we're fully capable of it, but somebody's got to invite us to it. Otherwise we may not even know it exists. And it could be that, there'll be times where, because the other thing about relationships we need to realize is they're transient. They're not meant to be permanent. Even within a relationship that goes on over many years, the nature of it changes. Otherwise, it doesn't go on for many years because we're all changing all the time. And I forgot my point. See, now wait, was that?
You have to do the bleep. It's come back. Bleep, bleep. Oh, it's a rewind. It's a rewind.
We bring it. Oh, that sounds like a sad cat. No. Anyway, yeah.
You were talking about that relationship being transient.
Yeah, relationships are not, and they're not where one brick meets another brick, and now they're concreted together as the same brick throughout life. Each of us, and the reason I'm bringing that up is because people often, in an attempt to maintain a relationship that they had yesterday in a particular way, will try to structure themselves in a similar way. Now, the funny part is they don't usually like doing it, and it feels uncomfortable. It feels contracted, but they do it for the other person and for the relationship. And then the other person has this obligation to try to be what they were yesterday. But if you have intimacy with you're both going to change, and you thrive on the change. You thrive on the different person that's in front of you each day. And that really is one of the recipes for a very successful relationship of any form, whether it's work or romantic or whatever.
And that's also where the perfectionism actually, it keeps everything in place. It's supposed to be this way. And then we're kind of like trying to shake it away from the inside.
Right.
So if you could create an anti-perfectionism practice, what would that be?
Have fun. Enjoy every moment. No matter what anybody else has as their point of view. And we have this thing, all of life comes to me with ease and joy and glory. Say that all day long for 2 days. Tell me what happens after 2 days. If you say it all day long, whenever you think about it.
And that actually, yes. And how can it get any simpler than that?
Yeah.
Like particular. Yeah. And I love that just have fun, because that means that everything is allowed to be there, because you're allowed to have fun with everything.
Yeah. And even that idea, most people don't even know what would be fun, because they're thinking, if I'm having whatever that's not fun, then let me judge what I need to tweak and judge what I need to whatever to have fun. And having fun is basically when you're not judging anyone or anything. You get to enjoy everything if you're not judging anyone or anything, including you, especially you.
So, okay. So saying ease, all of life comes to me with ease and joy and glory, and have fun with everything is a recipe for chaos.
Yeah. Interestingly, that's exactly what it is. And it's, so the elements of intimacy, I'm sure you've talked about this before, but honoring, trust, allowance, vulnerability, and gratitude. And that's what that gives you. But it's not work. It just is. And what I see in working with people, those that are willing or desire it, get more of what just is for them already, more of who they truly are. And that's a recipe for loving being alive. And you look at the world we live in, where people are trying to get validated by other people's positive judgment, which creates a universe of judgment that they value and feel validated by, but it never has a sustainable sense of fulfillment. It's always chasing after the next trend of positive judgment, which, boy, and some people are really good at it and they think they're really successful that way. And those are the people that tend to have a midlife crisis or an emotional breakdown. And you're like, but I thought they were perfect. It's like, well, yeah, that's what they had to try to maintain, so they didn't have to deal with the level of all the other stuff that they think is there.
So looking at that, hunting for positive judgment is like what we've been trained to do since we were very little. So if you just look like in your life, when you've been embracing more chaos, and I know you have, what has changed for you?
Everything. Quite literally. What I don't know how most people function, but one of the things I've recognized and embraced really dynamically is that it's the quality of each moment of my life that creates the quality of my life that I'm living. And so what really occurs is, what I used to do was I would, even on a day where I had done or been something miraculous, and I'm really blessed, I'm really fortunate to get to do what I do, because I literally facilitate miracles. I mean, that sounds a bit, it sounds a bit large, but that's actually what I see. Things people have never been able to change. I, contribute, and it's their choice, but I'm there for it, And how did I get so lucky? But what would happen is, even on a day where I saw all these people choosing more in a really beautiful way if most of the rest of my day on my own, I was in my head judging me and feeling like, yuck, and not close to people and not close to myself and didn't have intimacy with myself. Well, it was like, it was kind of like putting sprinkles on a pile of shit, It's like, sorry, visual, but, but embracing more chaos is, because chaos and judgment are mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
And so if you're being chaos, you're willing to take what shows up in the moment, but you're also willing to recognize that you are a creative source for creating what can show up in every moment. And that's really where everything gets fun. And I've got, I have this feeling like I'm saying these things that are, I don't know, so heady or so something where people maybe can't even seem to access them, but it's not about trying to access it from there. It's, if any of the things we've spoken about have been inspiring or inviting, just go, I'll have that. I have no idea what it looks like. I have no idea what it's going to take. I have no idea what's going to change. I have no idea what's going to come into my life or leave, but I'll have that. That's the chaos we're talking about. And that chaotic choice is always the beginning of something different showing up, and you don't have to know the how.
Yeah. And I love how StreamYard agreed with you, because you did something which made it go thumbs up. Which had like a little floating up.
Oh, that's awesome. Thumbs up. Hey, I approved conversation.
Conversation. Go for chaos. So thank you so much. I think that's a brilliant way of ending. You don't have to know how. You just, if this talks to you, if there's something here that you actually would like to have, you just go, I'll have that. I'll have that. Right. It's fun along the way.
Yeah, that.
Thank you so much for coming on. And yeah, how much fun can we have?
Oh, my wonderful friend, I thank you. And I'm so glad you're bringing these conversations to the world, because getting intimate with us and what that creates for everything is one of the biggest elements of enjoying being alive. So thank you.
That is so true. Yeah, thank you.